Hi, Jay Fallon here. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. So, one of my favorite authors, writers to read, especially when talking about the truth and maybe the story behind the misinformation that we are constantly fed through mainstream media. I like looking at Alex Berenson and what he has to say about issues, especially about one big issue. And I'm going to try not to say the word while I'm here because I don't want YouTube to ban me. I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube at the moment anyway. So, especially the last couple of years, Alex has had some, he's uncovered some big issues with the misinformation that we've been fed. So, he recommended this story, this article here. He recommended another article which led on to this one. So I wanted to share this today. I think this is very important, actually, and very interesting for how it shows just the lies, the misinformation that we've been fed for the last couple of years, and yet how our governments, our officials, they will never admit the truth. They will never admit that they gave us misinformation, or that they were just, even if they believed it themselves at the time, they will not admit that they were just wrong. And I see it here in Australia, on news programs such as the ones that we're fed from the ABC. They still go along with this misinformation that that the medical emergency was still it was still natural. It was just a part of nature, let's say it that way. That there was no way, it's still a conspiracy theory that it might have come out of let's say a building near another place, that kind of thing. I'm trying to be vague here, just so, like I said, so I don't get in trouble. But hey, let's read through this article. I'm not going to go through the whole lot here. I'll read you part of the headline. You can read it yourself here, but it says America's response was based on lies. So this is actually written by Scott Atlas. Okay, it's in Newsweek, and it's got 10 points. So these 10 lies, 10 bits of misinformation that we've been fed the public. And I think it's relevant because this is also, it's the same thing that's happened here in Australia. So throughout this article, down this article, he explains, here are the 10 biggest falsehoods known for years to be false, not recently learned or proven to be so, promoted by America's, and I'll say Australia's and the UK's and New Zealand's public health leaders, elected and unelected officials, and now discredited academics. So the first falsehood, I'm not going to say some of these words, like I said, but anyway, the first one is this issue here that you can see, the medical emergency. It says has a far higher fatality rate than the flu by several orders of magnitude. We can say that was a load of rubbish, misinformation. Number two, everyone is at significant risk to die from this virus. Complete misinformation. Number three, no one has any immunological protection. Wow, because this virus is completely new. Number four piece of misinformation, lie. Asymptomatic people are major drivers of the spread. What a load of rubbish, eh? Number five, locking down. Now, mate, just thinking about locking down sends a shiver through my spine. Remembering, you all remember those days of being shut up for 3 days at a time or whatever? Everyone's in lockdown. You couldn't do anything. Anyway, so locking down. So the misinformation was that closing schools and businesses, confining people to their homes, stopping, non kind of emergency medical care, eliminating travel will stop or prevent the virus. Yeah, okay. Number six piece of misinformation, masks will protect everyone and stop the spread. Yeah. Number seven, the virus is known to be naturally occurring. This one really really frustrated me, because to me it seemed blatantly obvious that, there's a building in this one area, just so happens to be the one area in this very large country, sorry, not company, very large country. And there's this one building which makes this medical emergency, let's say. It makes it. And yet they were constantly telling us, no, it didn't come from that one building that makes the medical emergency. It comes from this little area next door to that building. And it just occurred naturally. And we're called conspiracy theorists. We're basically just called idiots if we didn't believe the rubbish that they were telling us. I found it frustrating. Anyway, so known to be naturally occurring and claiming it originated in a lab is a conspiracy theory. Yeah. Number 8 on the misinformation list: teachers are at especially high risk. Number 9, the medical emergency shots stop the spread of the infection. The people that just ran out, didn't look into it, just ran out and got it. And then the people who were forced to get it, even I've got family members, friends who were forced to get it. They didn't want to get it, but hey, they were going to lose their jobs, lose their livelihoods, didn't know what they were going to do if they didn't get undergo a medical procedure. And now look, couple of years later, I still haven't had anything. But anyway, number 10, immune protection only comes from getting this medical procedure. So that's the 10 lies that government, our bureaucracy, our elected and unelected officials have been telling us for years. We know these things aren't true. We're not going to get, whether you're in the United States or in Australia, we're not going to get an apology. We're not going to get an acknowledgement that, hey, we stuffed up and we told you the wrong thing. We actually got some of these things wrong. We're not going to get any kind of acknowledgement. As like I've said before, I think I've said on here, but the ABC here in Australia, just the other day, they were still promoting this idea that that the building that makes this medical procedure, medical emergency, I should say, the building that makes it, it still is not responsible for unleashing it on the rest of the world. They're still pushing that rubbish. So he goes on in this article to say that none of us are so naive as to expect a direct apology from critics well, he says at his employer, Stanford University, or in government, academics, public health, and the media. But to ensure that this never happens again, government leaders, power-driven officials, and influential academics and advisors, often harboring conflicts of interest, must be held accountable. Personally, I remain highly skeptical that any government investigation or commission can avoid politicization. Regardless of their intention, all such government-run inquiries will at least be perceived as politically motivated, and their conclusions will be rejected outright by many. Listen, this article really just goes through. I'd recommend you read it. It's quite a good opinion piece, but it really just it goes through what we already knew. There are so many, all these lies, this misinformation that we've been told for the last couple of years. We like the writer says, we're not going to receive an apology or an acknowledgement that they did the wrong thing. And I still believe that there's a lot more to it than just a medical emergency being unleashed on the world. I believe that this agenda, it was really unleashed upon the world because of another agenda, because they're pushing forward for what I believe they're pushing forward for a one world government agenda, and this helped push along that agenda. That's my opinion. But hey, it would be nice to hear the government or officials or some kind of, let's say, high profile so-called doctors come out and say, you know what, we stuffed up, or we fed you the wrong information. It was misinformation, or maybe you're not conspiracy theorists and maybe you're actually right. and stop treating us like idiots. I doubt it'll ever happen, but it would be nice. That's my opinion. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.